Yes, people, what's going on the street? And we are back in the building. You know the vibes, you know what time it is, you know what it is. We're here for another match preview, and today we are previewing Liverpool versus Arsenal. Who will end top of the table right before Christmas? Who can give their fans that Christmas present? It's going to be a blockbuster game, I hope. Anyway, you know how we always build up these big games and then they don't really end up to be as great as they probably could be. But I am hoping that, this game can really, give the fans, a really, really great game right before the Christmas day. And then, we can look into the, second half of the season and take things from there. But we'll get into a little bit of Liverpool news, looking at Arsenal, how I see the two teams, combined 11s, my predicted 11 for Liverpool, for the game in itself. And I will obviously give you guys my predicted scoreline. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
Yes, people, you know what time it is, you know what it is. Make sure you're smashing that like button. We are this close, literally. Can you guys give me at least a Christmas present? Yeah, I mean, I'm not asking for money. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not like one of them uncles. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. I'm just asking for 900 subscribers. Hopefully I can get that before Christmas Day. We have got 2 days left until Christmas. Merry Christmas to all those who obviously, of course, celebrate it if I do not speak to you before then. But today we're here. Liverpool versus Arsenal. Should be a cracking game. It should be, but we say this all the time, and just like the Manchester City Liverpool game, it was 1-1. So it is just one of those kind of things. It's one of those kind of things. Obviously, winner here will go top at the moment. We'll take a look at the table, actually. I'll show you guys what the table is looking like. Boom, boom, boom. So you guys can obviously see here, Aston Villa played yesterday. Absolutely disappointing result for them. A 1-1 draw against Sheffield United. So they've completely, fluffed their own lines. And they could have actually gone top of the table, but they couldn't do so. So it's going to be between Arsenal and Liverpool to kind of decide who's going to end up top of the table, for the Christmas holiday. Obviously, we know Manchester City, they're away, just won the Club World Cup. Congratulations to them. Pep Guardiola's team, completing a bit of a clean sweep of trophies, something that obviously Liverpool have managed to do recently as well. Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle, Manchester United, and Brighton and Hove Albion are there in the top 8. Don't really care about the rest of the teams, to be honest with you. If you're lower than 8th, then you're not really of any thoughts in my mind, if I'm being 100% honest with you. But yeah, looking at the top 3 anyway, I think it's going to be interesting. It's really, really going to be interesting. Of course, today's game, I think it kicks off at 5:30, I believe that's the time. Arsenal obviously top now. If it ends in a draw, they will stay top for Christmas. Liverpool move into second place, on goal difference. Aston Villa will obviously be third, but then looking over their shoulder at Manchester City. So you kind of get a picture of how the how the table looks like and how important this game is in terms of really just for the here and now. I wouldn't say this is a long-term thing. So what I mean by that is, it's a blockbuster game. It's a big game. At the end of the day, it's Liverpool versus Arsenal. Those games are usually, relatively big, so to speak. There's not really rivalry or anything like that. I would like to think that there's no hate. I don't hate Arsenal at all. Actually, they're actually one of my favorite teams to watch. Good club. had some fantastic players, down in the past and stuff like that. Obviously, my favorite player ever in the Premier League, Thierry Henry, mixed with, the typical Invincibles, the Pires, the Bergkamps, Freddie Ljungberg. Heck, I even remember the Sylvain Waltall scoring at Old Trafford. Like, Arsenal have been good for the Premier League, but I tell you that much. Without them, it would have been real boring. And it was even boring anyway with them here, fighting alongside Manchester United. But yeah, man, they're a good club, man. They're a good club. I don't think there's any real problems there, with them. But in terms of the context of today's game or this evening's game, I think, yeah, we really are looking at it, and it is going to be one of those games. It's important. I don't think it's going to be that important for this season, though, but just purely because of how many games you have left. It's quite difficult. When the table's this tight, it's different if like one of the teams, whether it be Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, were like 7, 8, 9 points ahead kind of thing. Then you're like, oh, you win this game, you're like 12 points ahead. The gap starts becoming quite big. And then at this stage, it's like, oh, if you can win, you can close that gap. If you lose, then, it increases that already large gap. Whereas now it's like 1 point, between us. So where it's only 1 point, you lose here. I think we go 2 points ahead. Is that good? Can you hold that over a team, for an entirety of a season? I don't really know. Do you get what I mean? Equally, if you get a draw, again, it leaves you in the exact same position. So this is why I'm saying it's important in terms of, I think, for both teams. So for Liverpool, obviously disappointing game against Manchester United in the Premier League. They then followed it up with a convincing win against West Ham in the Carabao Cup. So, two different teams. Take it how you want to kind of take it. Arsenal, obviously, for them, it's been, I feel like for Arsenal, one of the things I'll say just before I look at like my 11 and stuff like that. One of the things I will say is, I know, and this is just my opinion, I'm not an Arsenal fan, so I don't know how really Arsenal fans maybe might feel, but the way I look at Arsenal now and listening to Arsenal fans, and, I've got friends who are Arsenal fans, obviously, they haven't been too convinced with the way that Arsenal have been playing this season as an overall, in terms of, obviously, last season, they were used to blowing teams away and, scoring the 3, 4s, 5s and 6s and stuff like that. And I know they've obviously beat Lens, by quite a big scoreline. But when I hear them talk about their team, sometimes I sit there and think to myself, I feel like it's like, for me, when I look at them, obviously, games like today will be very, very telling. So, of course, we'll know more. But when I watch them this season, yes, they're not being the gung-ho, exuberant team that we, maybe saw last season. But I feel like last season, two things. One, obviously, it was more of a shock. So teams weren't really giving them that level of respect because they didn't really deserve it, to be honest with you. They were a team that nobody thought, coupled with the fact that Chelsea and Liverpool were absolutely atrocious last season. Manchester United were good. Like, I mean, you can tell it was a funny season, in a general sense. But I think with nobody really giving them the respect at the time, I feel like they were able to use that kind of momentum. And then obviously once people started giving them the respect that they deserved, which they obviously built up through time, once people started giving them that level of respect, then it became a thing of, it's hard to stop this train. But then obviously in the end, we saw how that kind of, towards the back end of the season, they will use the Saliba injury and say, that was a main factor. I can hear it because obviously, when a main component of your team is obviously out of the team, of course, it's going to, deplete the team, and it's going to have an impact on the team in a general sense. But at the same time, I do feel like there was a little bit of crumbling under pressure, having never been in a title race before. When you haven't been in a title race, it can be difficult. Do you know what I mean? There's only going to be so many Leicester Cities out here who can just kind of come in, never been in a title race and win, kind of thing. And they were battling relegation the season before. So that's how you knew it was an anomaly. But with Arsenal and their players, there's about that kind of level of experience. Now, this season, when I'm watching them, for me, I'm like, I feel like they've built upon that experience from last season. And now they're coming, it's not as exuberant, but I feel like it's more about an understanding. It's more about knowing just what it takes to win Premier League matches. And on top of the fact that people are now giving them the respect that they do deserve. At the end of the day, they finished runners-up last season. So people are going to have to give them, their respect and, thoroughly deserved. They are one of the best teams in the Premier League and one of the better teams in Europe, and they've probably even got a good chance of going far in the Champions League based on the teams who are, still left in that competition. So And, you know, with the players that they've signed, you know, Declan Rice, fantastic player. You know, Kai Havertz, I've liked him always. At first, it, you know, kind of did look a little bit iffy with the signing. You know, where's he going to fit in? How's he going to play and stuff like that? But I feel like he's really, really grown into his role. Obviously, they got Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Martin Odegaard, you know, Saliba, Gabriel, you know, Zinchenko, Raya, Ben White, Tomiyasu, Trossard, good player. Like, they've got a lot of good players that I would blatantly take at Liverpool. But I just think that this season they've just kind of grown up, in my personal opinion. Last season was more like coming of age, you know, kind of thing. They turned teenagers, and you know, they're going through the whole season, you know, until they get to that, you know, all right, well, now I'm a grown up now I'm an adult, you know, now I understand there's certain things that I need to do to be able to pattern up in certain situations. So it might not always be I'm going out to party every single weekend, because as an adult, not to say you cannot do that. So you will have those days, i.e. the Lens game, you know, you'll have those kind of performances, so to speak. But then there's going to be the period of time where it's like, I need to be a bit mature. I need to be a bit professional. I need to understand the job that I need to do. They beat Brighton in their last game. Probably in some Arsenal fans' eyes, it was their best game of the season in terms of style of play, football, everything just kind of clicking together. And they only won 2-0. You know, and I'm hearing a lot of Arsenal fans who are extremely pleased with that performance, probably more pleased with that performance than they were against Lens, because Lens, again, context and all that kind of stuff. But they were extremely pleased, and they only won 2-0. That shows me a level of maturity. And some teams will, you know, when you're going for titles, and again, I'm only speaking from the experience of being, you know, Liverpool and watching my team, and it was kind of the exact same thing of, you know, the season. You know, even the season before we won the Champions League, for example, we were gung-ho, you know, we were just kind of trying to do our thing. And, you know, there wasn't that level of maturity about the team. We could concede goals, we'd lose games and stuff like that. We score bare goals, but we were just naive as a team, you know, and we knew that that couldn't continue moving forward, because, of course, once teams figure you out, it's difficult for you to then, you know, stop that kind of, you know, conceding and stuff like that. We then move into the season that we won the Champions League, you know, and when that season, I felt like, for me, that was Liverpool's best season in terms of performance-wise, because we were just so mature, so perfect almost, you know, and we only lost the league obviously by that 1 point. And then the following season, it was like, cool, third time's a charm. Maybe we win it this season. And then boom, we win it in that 1920 season, when everything kind of comes together. Obviously, Manchester City fell off a cliff by that time, but we got to that point where we were like, we're now too good, as you saw with the points difference between ourselves and second place Manchester City, and then everybody else in the Premier League. You know, we really did reach that point. And I think that Arsenal, at the moment, again, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but by looking at them, that's the kind of trajectory that I'm seeing them on. Whether they win it this season or next season, I don't know. But they're obviously going to try and look to win it this season. Maybe this is the year that maybe Liverpool win it this season, just for the sake of just winning it. Then maybe Arsenal next season. I mean, I don't know, because I don't see Manchester City wanting to go 2 seasons without winning the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? That's unheard of. You know, that's extremely unheard of. So, you know, it's all of these kind of things. And that's why I kind of see Arsenal at this current, you know, moment in time. And, you know, taking a look at Liverpool, you know, looking at them, I think it's like obviously I'm going to be, it's more of a deeper analysis when I look at Liverpool, but try and do the long and short of it for me is purely, you know, you're looking at Liverpool in a general sense. And if I'm being totally honest, it's like, I know what Liverpool are capable of. I know what, you know, what we can do, you know, and what the best kind of looks like for Liverpool. Now, obviously, context of time, people have moved on. We've got new players in. We are in a different type of era, so to speak, you know, than we were in before. Other teams are in different types of eras. So there's a lot of context that kind of surrounds it. Am I happy with the way that Liverpool playing? No. Do I feel like there's a level of maturity within there? No, not really. What I do think is we have fantastic players within the team who are probably able and good enough to be able to win games effectively on their own, whether that be the goalkeeper Alisson with his saves, Van Dijk with his defending, Trent with his passing, Salah with his goals, whatever that might be. I feel like where we've got that edge over, say, an Arsenal, who don't really, in my opinion, have that many, you know, world-class players. It's really more about probably one in their entire team, if I'm being totally honest with you, in terms of world-class players who have shown it consistently. The rest, I'd probably say, yeah, they're good players, they're top class players, but world class might be pushing it a little bit, and that's only really Bukayo Saka, you know, whereas Liverpool, obviously, as I mentioned, Alisson, Van Dijk, Trent, Mohamed Salah, and that's just the ones that I would say off the face of it. There might be others you might want to throw in there, but we talk about players who have been there, done that, won things, been consistent, been successful with the football club and stuff like that. That's where I look at Liverpool and say we will have the edge over most teams purely on that basis, and then it comes to down to other things. Is that then going to be enough potentially for us to win a Premier League? Let's wait and see. Hopefully it is enough for us to win the Premier League. But when we're looking at this kind of game, this is why I feel like this is going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a good matchup between both, Arsenal and Liverpool. But we'll wait and see, man. Honestly, we'll genuinely wait and see, and just kind of take things from there. If I'm being, totally honest with you. But let's take a look. If I show you guys, if I just share my screenio. Let's do my lineup for the game. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one, lass. That's the one. Cool. So I've already filled it in for you guys. Hopefully you guys can obviously see that. So as you can see here, obviously in goal we have Alisson. Doesn't really need much talking. Tsimikas doesn't really need much talking. Van Dijk doesn't really need much talking. Now it was a choice between Konate and Kwanzaa. Obviously Kwanzaa's played good, this season. He has genuinely performed. So it is a conversation to potentially have, but I just think that this is the type of game that where, if I can't trust Konate in this type of game, where you're supposed to be really the second choice, the partner to Van Dijk, if I really can't trust you in this game, I'd rather just sell you because it's just, you're just kind of useless now to me. Why did I sign you when, I could have just bought someone way better, so Konate, have to come in. Joe Gomez, I think playing Joe Gomez in this kind of game might be better suited potentially against a Martinelli. We know that Martinelli is someone who likes spacing behind. He's a threat. He's an absolute threat and menace. And, when he's come up against Trent, he's had really good games, unfortunately for Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I would rather maybe potentially having someone a bit more defensive minded, but also as well, not to say that Joe Gomez ain't going to try and get himself forward. Of course he will, but he's got defense first in his mind as opposed to attack first, whereas Trent is attack first, defend second, kind of thing. And against this type of Arsenal team, nah, I really, you don't, when you've got two of the best wingers out there, nah, I don't really want that, kind of thing. So I'd much prefer to see, someone like Joe Gomez there. In midfield, I've kind of gone with like a 4-2-3-1 kind of thing, or you can still call it 4-3-3 if you want, with just someone a bit further ahead. But I've 4-2-3-1, however you want to see it. That's how they've put it, obviously here on the tactics here, but or the lineup, should I say? Midfield, I've gone with Trent, obviously in the 6 kind of position, and then Curtis Jones. I know I could have gone with Endo in this position, but I just felt that maybe, and again, this more of it's just hope more than anything. I feel like someone like Endo might be good to bring on in the second half if we're winning and you just want to shore up the game, or if we are winning and the game's a bit too tight, we're only winning 1-0 and Arsenal look a bit threatening, maybe bring someone like him on for a Curtis Jones to kind of be able to break up play, to, stop their attacks or help to stop their attacks. And then maybe you just play a little bit more solid, switch into a conventional 4-3-3, so to speak, with him at the base. And then, trying to play from there, potentially, moving Trent in and out, whatever you need to kind of do. So that's why I've gone with Jones. I know Gravenberch, but I think he is back for today's game, but of course, he doesn't deserve to start. I wouldn't start him in this game. I would, even depending on the scoreline, I don't think I'd even bring him on in this kind of match. It would really just depend on the actual scoreline in itself. I don't think we should need him in this kind of game. And then I've gone with Szoboszlai there, to be honest with you. Again, really, it's just because we don't really have the numbers, if I'm being 100%. Otherwise, I don't think I would really play him because I don't really think he's deserved to play, to be honest with you. I do think that he has been in some quite poor form recently. I haven't really seen too much of an improvement, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not really seeing anything from Szoboszlai, if I'm being totally honest. I know people talk about this West Ham game and he scored a fantastic goal, but I don't care about Carabao Cup fixtures, if I'm being honest with you. If I start doing things like that, I'll start looking at, Europa League games and saying, well, this guy should start because he scored against Lask. I don't really want to do that because I feel like that's then, a little bit disingenuous, if I'm being totally honest with you, especially when, you know, in the games that matter, so to speak. I'm not really seeing it from you. And in the Premier League, I'm not really seeing, you know, that from Szoboszlai. For whatever reason, I don't really know. But I feel like him actually playing in this potential position might give him a little bit more freedom. Obviously, I've got Trent in that midfield position as well. And we already know what Trent is like. And you can see the rest of my team here in Elliott, Salah and Gakpo. And I feel like having those three, Trent, Szoboszlai and Elliott on that right-hand side may just serve us a bit better than having Salah on that right-hand side with Szoboszlai on that right-hand side and Trent on that right-hand side. Defensively, I think that it's just a recipe for disaster. Honestly, like it genuinely is. And that's where the space starts to get opened up. And then on top of that, you negate a lot of what Szoboszlai probably wants to do within the team, obviously to fit what Trent can do in the team. So it's just a choice between the two, really and truly. Whereas I feel like here you can, I'm not saying that they're both going to be, you know, just free roaming it and, you know, have a license to just do whatever it is that they want to do. But I feel like you'll be able to at least see the two with someone like Elliott on the wings as well. I think with playing Elliott on the wings, really, it's just because Salah is just not really cutting it on the wings, and we don't really have anybody else, in my opinion, who can play right wing like that. So I feel like putting Elliott out there again. He had another decent game against West Ham, but that wasn't really what I'm looking at. I'm just looking at the type of player that he is and what he can do out there on the right wing, being able to cut in. Obviously, we know he's played right central midfield, so he's comfortable within those kind of areas. He's comfortable, you know, between the lines, you know, at times. Not the quickest or anything like that. So I'm not expecting balls in behind and he's just going to be able to run onto them all the time. He is more of a ball to feet individual, but I feel like having that type of individual, someone who is ball to feet, who does like to cut in potentially at times, or can even stay wide, really can mix it up. Whereas Salah, I feel like sometimes it just really depends. Unless he's isolated, that's when you see him, you know, relatively central. But if he's not isolated, you know, I don't really want him to get marked out the game. And usually most left backs are marking him out of games. And I just think that having him through the middle is more of a threat for me than, for now anyway, than having him out wide. I just think out wide in a game like this, man, I just feel like anytime he plays against Arsenal, it's mad because he scores goals against Arsenal. But then I'm watching most of the game, I'm like, this brother's getting locked up in the game. I just don't really understand. You know what I mean? He's getting locked up, but he's getting you the goal. Do you know what I mean? Because we're doing a breakaway and he just happens to be on the end of it, you know, kind of thing. It's always seemingly like that. But playing him through the middle, I just think that would be better, to be honest with you. We ain't got no one else who's good enough to go down through the middle. So why not just put him and try Elliott? You know what I'm saying? If Elliott doesn't work, then you go back to Salah down the middle, and then you can put your Gakpos, your Nunes or Jota when he comes back, you know, through the middle. And then on the left, I think it'll be Diaz, but I would play Gakpo in this kind of game. Again, needing to help out against Bukayo Saka. I feel like Gakpo can still be effective, so to speak, in terms of in a defensive side of things, you know, because obviously he's able to kind of slot in if we need him to. Obviously looking at other players, you know, around the team, not just Bukayo Saka on his side, but then also looking at whoever's on the right central midfield, you know, for Arsenal, whether that's Ødegaard or anything like that, helping out Curtis Jones in that kind of respect. And the three of them, I think, could potentially work reasonably well. Diaz, you could play Diaz in this kind of game. He was obviously rested for the game against West Ham. Maybe that's an indication that he will obviously play. He needs a rest and things like that. I think he will play, but I would be looking more at something like this with Mo Salah more down the middle. Because if you're going to isolate the guy, then I'd rather you just isolate him through the middle, if I'm being totally honest with you, and then have someone else out there who both players, I think, defensively will help out quite a lot, because I am quite worried about Arsenal's wingers. You know, I do think that their wingers are you know, some of the best in the Premier League, and I just think that that's where they're potentially going to try and play their game, potentially through those wings. They can play through the middle as well if they really wanted to, you know, with Ødegaard picking up the ball. And then again, that's where the midfield need to, you know, learn to click into play, click into gear, because they need to understand if you're not picking up players like Ødegaard, if you're allowing, you know, Havertz to just run off the back of you. Havertz is, you know, he seems to play reasonably well against Liverpool. You know, he's fantastic in the box when it comes to balls in the box, you know, in terms, especially against Liverpool. I don't know what it is. I know people say he's not a great goal scorer and stuff. I get all of that, but I look at him and I just think to myself, Nah, you don't really want someone like Havertz like in and around the box. I'm not saying he's a guy who's going to get you bare goals or anything like that. I'm definitely not saying that before anybody tries to say, oh, but Hazard doesn't score that many. I know he doesn't, but he's dangerous in those kind of areas just purely by being a threat in those areas. Whether he scores or not, it doesn't even matter. And that's the scary part about him, is that he's still a threat, even though he's not even, necessarily scoring, because he just ghosts into these kind of positions. So yeah, and against Liverpool, he seems to love scoring headers. So I really don't want something like that in this kind of game. But yeah, that's my lineup, for the game. That's how I've kind of gone anyway. That's how I kind of see it. But, it just kind of depends on, you guys let me know in the comment section whether you think, yeah, that's the way to go. That's not the way to go. Would you prefer to see someone else? Would you prefer to see different sets of players? Obviously, let me know what you think in the comment section. If I share my screen again and show you guys my combined 11, is it gonna come up? Yeah, there we go. So boom, you guys can obviously see that. I felt like this was a bit tricky at times, trying to figure out, obviously, combined 11 of players who are fit. Yeah, it was a little bit tricky in certain positions. Do you know what I mean? But I felt like this is the best that I could come up with. So obviously Alisson in goal, that's not going to be a debate. Van Dijk's never going to be a debate. Saliba won't be a debate. Trent won't be a debate. It was more the left back area, because I could have put Tsimikas there, and I felt like Tsimikas has been all right. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I feel like they've both been exactly the same, but Tsimikas has only been recently, whereas Zinchenko has been basically the whole season. And obviously he's had more time to have better games and stuff like that. So and for what he kind of offers you, on the ball and stuff like that, that's why I went with Zinchenko. But I didn't want to, I felt a bit bad, because I was like, no, I feel like Tsimikas, you know what I mean? He's done his thing. You know what I mean? Listen, we were all worried. We were all worried. At the end of the day, we had every reason to be worried, because Tsimikas sometimes is shit. You know what I mean? Let's not lie to ourselves and be silly. Like, he's been shit at times, and sometimes I even think, is he even an adequate enough left back kind of thing? I still question it even now. Even watching him now, I'm not really convinced there's blatantly better left backs out there, but he's doing his thing. So man has to give him the praise regardless. Midfield, 6, never going to really debate. It was really the two other positions. Well, no, left central midfield, I wouldn't really debate. Liverpool have not had I don't think any left central midfielders who have played that well, to be honest with you. They've played, big up Savage, something I heard him mention on Enza's show, that between Curtis Jones and Gravenberch, they've kind of split time, so it's difficult. Do you get what I mean? Because they've split the periods, so then and not all of that has been great, not all of it's been shit. Some of it's been media, it's all over the gaff. Whereas Havertz has kind of consistently played in that kind of position, and I feel like he's done well. Man. I feel like it's going to end up being a good signing, in my personal opinion. Right central midfield, again, I thought that was a bit tricky. Whether it be Ødegaard or Szoboszlai. I feel like Szoboszlai started the season 10 times better than Ødegaard did. But he's then gone off the boil recently, whereas I do feel like Ødegaard has been probably a bit more consistent with his performances, but I don't feel like he's had some outstanding performances where I'm like, oh my God, kind of thing. Maybe 1 or 2 games this season, then potentially. But yeah, as an overall, I would have, it was tricky. So I just went with Szoboszlai. But I wouldn't really argue Ødegaard there. Front 3, I had to get Saka and Salah in. That was the thing. And so I just put Saka out left, because we can't see Mo down the left. Up front, I just went with Gabriel Jesus. I think he's such a fantastic player. I really wanted him at Liverpool, man. Just before we bought Darwin Núñez, I was praying that we could get, we can get someone like Gabriel Jesus, but City would never. I don't think City would ever sell. Excuse me, I don't think City would ever sell to us. So that was always tricky, man. Yeah, I mean, but I really wanted him, because I felt like if you're ever gonna get a Firmino replacement, you're wasting time buying your Núñez and Gakpo. Gabriel Jesus is right there, literally right there. Do you know what I mean? And to me, it made so much sense, but it is what it is, and we didn't want to sign him. So now we're here trying to faff about with everyone else. But that's my combined 11. Let me know, obviously, in the chat if if there's any changes you guys would make. So obviously Alisson in goal, Van Dijk and Saliba as centre back pairing, Zinchenko and Trent as the fullbacks, Declan Rice in the 6th position with Kai Havertz and Dominic Szoboszlai. Then I'm going with the front 3 of Saka, Gabriel Jesus, and Mo Salah. Crazy, man. Crazy. I was doing a bit of nostalgia recently, listen to everyone talk about Liverpool versus Arsenal. And I said, I couldn't talk about Liverpool versus Arsenal without digging into the archives and, bringing up this. Yeah, I'm saying, like, this is, for me, when people talk about Liverpool versus Arsenal, obviously from a Liverpool perspective, when we talk about this game, like Liverpool, this fixture, should I say, this for me is the best fixture I've ever seen from Liverpool versus Arsenal. There's been other games, of course there has. There's been, I think, was it the 5-1s at Anfield and stuff? Yeah, there's been bare of those games. I remember Neil Mellor scoring against Arsenal, and I was like, oh my God, because Arsenal were like fantastic, but they weren't. Like, this Arsenal was solid. Like, this, like, that Arsenal was solid too, but this Arsenal was like I felt inferior. I felt inferior. Like, bro, look, like, let me even get I'm seeing Keown, Vieira, Ray Parlour, Freddie Ljungberg, Thierry Henry. Like, bro, like, I felt inferior to this team. I think this is the year that we obviously won the treble, innit? Like, so we won, what's that? The FA Cup, League Cup, UEFA Cup. Yeah, like, I felt inferior. Like, when that's how you know we were shit. Like, and for all those people who don't remember what Liverpool like, that's when you know you're shit, when I genuinely feel inferior. Like, even like now, there's only probably like one team I feel inferior to, and that's probably only Manchester City. Everyone else, and maybe Real Madrid, but the rest, I'm kind of like, I don't feel inferior. I feel like we are probably as good as you, but it will just depend on the day. Whereas Man City, Real Madrid are probably two teams I would say I feel a tad bit inferior to, because I just feel like they're just way better than we are, in most aspects. But back in the day, that wasn't the case. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, like during around about these times, like 2001, like you're talking about a period of time when, like I said, we were shit. You know what I mean? That season was good, but we were shit, man. You know what I mean? A young Stevie G, you know what I'm saying? Robbie Fowler, Emil Heskey, like Michael Owen, like the best striker. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I think, did Jamie Redknapp go up with, I'm sure Jamie Redknapp went up with Robbie Fowler at the end of the game to lift the trophy, because I'm sure Redknapp was injured that season. I like Jamie Redknapp, but yeah, like, he's picking up injuries all the time. It seems to be a Liverpool thing, like the way we pick up injuries to some of these players, man. Like, it's clearly been going on since the dawn of time, to be honest. But yeah, like, I just couldn't bring up this kind of fixture and not talk about, that game. That game, like I said, it's the best game I've ever seen from Liverpool versus thing. Michael Owen with two good, like, I don't think you guys even understand. You need to go back and watch the game highlights, I promise you. And I'm talking, watch the full game. Watch the full game, bro. Watch the full game, man. But it's even going to be difficult because you won't really understand the context of the season. You won't understand the context of that time period of Liverpool, and it's an FA Cup final, so you're gassed. And I'm just sitting there thinking we're 100% losing. Like, I don't see any way Liverpool win this game. And just to let you know, in this game, Arsenal dominated literally the whole game. Like, they literally were the better team, bar none. It was literally in those two moments that Liverpool scored was the only time that I could have said, oh my days, Liverpool. But no, Arsenal, literally, they were missing chances and all of this kind of stuff. Thierry Henry, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy, man. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'll show you guys my predicted scoreline for the game, and then we will head out. And you guys obviously let me know in the comment section your scoreline, your lineups, and stuff like that. So, as you guys can see, I've gone with a 1-1 scoreline. Yeah, that's where I think it will be. Yeah, that's just how I'm feeling. If I'm being 100% honest with you, that's just how I'm looking at it, and that's how I believe the game will kind of go. I know we're billing it up, and I'm billing it up. Oh, it's a big game, and all of this kind of stuff, but I feel like when that happens, then it ends up being that type of game. So that's why I'm going for more of a 1-1. If I'm being totally honest with you, that could change, that it could look different, but at the moment, that's how I see it. 1-1. Goal scorers, I don't know. Gakpo, Gabriel Jesus. Yeah, maybe one of those two. Will obviously get the goal. But guys, let me know obviously what you think in the comment section. What is your scoreline? Send me your predicted scorelines, your predicted lineups and stuff like that. Who would you like to see? Let me know all of that in the comment section. Obviously, guys, we know Jerry's going to the game today, so let's hope. You know what I'm saying? Let's hope, Jerry. You know what I mean? If you're watching this, my bro, Like, make sure you pattern up when you get to the stadium and that, bro. Like, I don't want to see. I mean, I don't want to hear Klopp talking his shit again. You know what I mean? After the game, like, if I hear him talking shit, then I'm getting onto you 100%, man, 100%. But nah, big up Jerry every single time. But yeah, man, people, give me a shout. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. That's a match preview done and dusted. I'm G. We out, baby.